Okay, we'll go ahead and get started since it's 10 o'clock. So good morning and welcome everyone. This is our temporary food establishment workshop. I want to start with some quick introductions and then a review of what we're going to cover today, and then just some housekeeping items. My name is Amber English and I'm the supervisor of the food safety program. The temporary food team is going to present today on our new applications. And I just want to acknowledge that this is not a workshop on fees. I know that's something everyone is interested in, but this is really just a workshop on our new application process. And just to do some quick introductions of our team, we have Kristen DeBraga, who will be up here in a second, and she is the temporary food program senior. And Mia Zeb will also be presenting, and she's part of the temporary food team, as well as Ian and Teresa. And we also have some additional staff in the audience here that can help answer questions. For those of you that are on Zoom, there will be a question and answer box that you can pose any questions. We'll go ahead and take questions from the audience first, and then we'll answer any of the questions on the Zoom link as well. So I will go ahead and hand it over to Mia.
Okay, you can go to the, I don't think so. Can you go to the next slide? This one? Other one. Oh, you want to do this? That was, yeah. Your slide, I don't think is it. Okay, so we're going to start by talking about why is food safety important? And the answer is foodborne illness, which is commonly referred to as food poisoning. Foodborne illness occurs more often than you may think. Has anyone here had food poisoning? Okay, yeah, a lot of people. The CDC estimates that 48 million people a year get sick from a foodborne illness. We often think of foodborne illness as vomiting and diarrhea, which can be really uncomfortable, but may only be a minor inconvenience for most. However, foodborne illness can be really serious, especially for at-risk populations such as older adults, children, pregnant women, or people who are immunocompromised. Foodborne disease can cause permanent organ damage, loss of pregnancy, or other serious complications. The CDC estimates that of the 48 million people that get sick from foodborne disease, 128,000 are hospitalized and 3,000 cases can result in death. You may be thinking, I've been doing this for 20 years and I have never made anyone sick. We hear this a lot. In March of this year alone, we received 26 complaints and 10 confirmed cases of foodborne illness just in Washoe County. Foodborne illness is extremely underreported, and most people don't think to call the health department every time they're sick. It is nearly impossible to know if you've made someone sick, and this is why we focus on food safety and prevention of foodborne illness. On the next slide will be a testimonial of someone who has suffered from a serious foodborne illness. This scenario is pretty extreme, but we just want you to see that it can happen.
Pretty much a typical 9-year-old third grader. She likes to ride bikes, read books, and hang out with friends and family. But this is Brianne kind of as she was before E. coli ravaged her young body and mind. For something as seemingly harmless as a hamburger really took her life. Wednesday, January 13th, 1993. 9-year-old Brianne Kiner is rushed to Children's Hospital in Seattle. She'd been suffering with diarrhea and stomach pains for 3 days. At first, her mother, Suzanne, thought it was the flu. But while there was a urine specimen at the doctor's office, Mrs. Kiner realized something was terribly wrong. When I brought the cup up behind her, his blood had started to float over my hand. Brianne was later admitted to Children's Hospital's intensive care unit. Tests revealed She had been infected with the deadly E. coli bacteria after eating an undercooked hamburger at a Redmond Jack in the Box restaurant. Brianne's body was so bloated you could barely recognize her. Blood seeped from every orifice. Doctors were pouring bag after bag of blood into Brianne's body, but E. coli bacteria was unrelenting. Within a week, Brianne slipped into a coma. Brianne's father, Rex, was living on faith.
There was a time spring fat enough, and then just giving up and God, 2 years.
After 5 weeks in a coma, after coming so close to pulling the plug, their daughter Brianne was suddenly, inexplicably back.
I still have a mask over my mouth, but breathing. It's
But Brianne knew in order to leave the hospital, she had to be able to walk. It took hours of intensive daily therapy to reach her goal. A month and a half after she came out of the coma, Brianne finally took her first steps.
I just know things that makes first start in my life. I don't know Joseph and I get the space for this. Without them down and go back. I'll be my friend. But I knew I stayed there until it's time.
Brianne has continuing nightmares, dreams of cobras with fangs, a big black hole. E. coli has left Brianne with brain damage and has left its mark in other ways.
She can't have children. How will she deal with that? She's our never history. There's nobody with her to be. Even as sick as she is, to love, to live.
As for Brianne, she plods along with her daily ritual to combat diabetes and asthma brought on by E. coli. There are challenges ahead that Brianne doesn't even know about yet, but her parents know all too well.
Okay, so that was definitely an extreme example of what can happen with foodborne illness. Definitely what we're trying to avoid. We really focus on prevention. So some of the things we do to avoid a scenario such as the one we just saw are inspections. During inspections, we are making sure everything looks how it should. So we always do an operational inspection for every temporary food permit that's issued. And the number of inspections really depends on the risk level of the food and how many days the operator will be operating at an event. We've also developed resource materials. So we have some new resource materials, checklists and things to help ensure that people are set up for success in advance. So we want to let you know what you need exactly before you start operating so you can be ready to go. We also conduct a pre-event interview. So during that interview, that's your chance to really ask us any questions about what you might need or what, what you're going to need to have for your setup for your event. And we also will review your application and then we ask you any questions based on what's written on your application and just make sure that we've ironed out any kinks and everybody's ready to go. Other things we do are just providing education. We really are open for you to ask us questions. We want to have a two-way relationship with you. So please don't feel like the inspection is, meant to be like a gotcha thing. It's more of a, working relationship. So we're there to help. Okay, so we did develop a new temp foods application and it was really a group effort. So if we could open that up. We can just review some of the changes. So in the past, when you would print out our application, it was really just a one-page document. Well, now we have several pages, but the intention is to have all the information you're going to need in one place. So this is the first page, and this page, this beginning page has some definitions for the different types of temporary permits you can pull. But it also is meant to have everything you need all in one place. If you are somebody new that's never operated a temporary food establishment before, we want to make sure you understand that there could be business licenses and other requirements just other than the health department requirements. So this is meant to be like a one-stop like go-to for everything you're going to need. So starts with definitions, then it goes to business license, contact information. And then the next checkbox, the last checkbox there, talks about securing an approved permitted kitchen. If you're going to do any offsite prep, definitely don't want people preparing food out of their house. Any food that is served in a temporary food establishment is subject to government inspection, and we're not obviously going to go in your house. So you can either prepare everything on site at the event, or you can get that permitted kitchen if you need to do anything in advance. Next page just talks about how to apply for a health permit, for special events food permit or temporary food permit. Talks about the interview process, which is required before you start preparing food. Some vendors are repeat vendors that we see several times during the year, and so those might not all get an interview every time they operate. But typically for all new vendors, we'll interview them at least once to just make sure we've got everything straightened out in advance. Then we go down to the inspections, which we kind of talked about a little before, but basically just making sure everything is operating as it should, making sure not only temperatures and good, but we're also looking at things like cross-contamination issues and employee behavior such as hand washing and things like that. And then we give some more information on our resources that are available. So we have a link to our regulations and our food resource library, which I would encourage everyone to go to. Just because there's lots of information on hand washing and anything that you would really need to operate a temporary food establishment or any food establishment. Next page is the actual application. So instead of having separate applications for producer sampler and for a temporary food establishment, we've now combined it all into one. So you can check one of the three boxes in the beginning, and then if you were to need the definition, of course, that was provided on that first page so that you could see which one you need to apply for. Another thing that we've added to this is the number of booths at the event with the same menu. We were running into instances where operators would have, maybe they're operating a large event and they've got 5 bars. So instead of having to fill out 5 separate applications, now they can fill out just this one and just say we've got 5 with the same menu. So I hope that will be helpful to people going forward. Moving down to the next page. Some things I would like to point out on this page are towards the middle there, will food or beverage items be prepared or stored offsite before the event? If yes, we are going to require a permit number, and that should be a Washoe County permit number for a restaurant operating here, because as I said before, anything that's prepared to be served at a special event is subject to government inspection. So we just want to make sure that if you are preparing anything ahead of time, it's done in a restaurant. Or you can select no, and that would just mean you're buying everything same day, bringing everything to the event and preparing it all there on site. Scooting down a little farther at the utensils and equipment warewashing, we did add the option for a 3-tub system inside the booth. So that's the wash, rinse, sanitize. Typically, we see that done in bus tubs or 5-gallon buckets. That is not the preferred method. If there's a 3-compartment sink available, and there will be if it's a multi-day event, we would prefer you use a 3-compartment sink. But we would approve this on a case-by-case basis, or if it's a single-day event and you don't have a kitchen to wash dishes in, because we wouldn't allow you to do that at home. So we would just want to know that ahead of time if that's something you want to do. Going to the next page, right there. So another change on this application is on the right-hand column, we're really looking for who's responsible for garbage disposal, restrooms, wastewater, and electrical supply. So typically on a large event, the event coordinator typically takes responsibility for those items, but some of our smaller events, it might be the booth operator. So we're just putting it on the booth operator ahead of time to know if they're going to be responsible for things like garbage disposal and things like that. And then, so just something to think about before the event happens. Some other changes that we've added are scrolling down a little bit to the terms and conditions. So a few things I'll just briefly cover. The first one just has to do with knowing where to find our regulations and that you are responsible to abide by food safety policies. The second one is that you understand you will have a health inspection when you operate, and that if you are not complying with the regulations or you're not following general food safety practices, you could have a closure of your permit, which we really try to avoid, but we just want to make it known that that is a possibility. The third one talks about acknowledging that you may not interfere with the health authorities' ability to perform our duties, which would typically means our inspections. We also discussed some behaviors that we've been experiencing. We know it's kind of a two-way street. We know it's kind of been hard, especially since COVID. It's been hard on operators. It's been hard on us too. I think we just need to remember we're all human. We're all in this together. So we're going to treat you with respect, and we just hope that you'll do the same for us. And the last one is just acknowledging that your application's not approved until you've been interviewed by an inspector. As we talked about before, people who operate several times in a year might not get an inspection every time, but if you're a new vendor, we really want to make sure that you get a chance to talk with an inspector so we can help you out and answer any questions you may have, as well as just get your setup and make sure everything is good to go. That is really it. I really would encourage everyone to just reach out and ask questions. Can we go back to the slides? Our contact information is here on the slides. You can also find it online if you Google Washoe County Health District Special Events. We're really here to help. So if anyone has anything, I'm happy to take questions. Any questions on Zoom? Oh, yeah. Okay, one more document really quick to cover. Sorry about that. See if we can open that back up. Okay, so this is our new checklist that we made. Operational checklist. So it tells you what you need to set up your event, but it also has tips on when you're operating. So this has been really helpful. And this is now included in the application packet. So if you print that packet out, you're going to automatically get this with it. So I just hope people will review this and make sure they're fully prepared for their event before it starts. And that's it. Is there any? If anybody wants to ask a question on Zoom, if you could just type that into the chat box and then we can answer it. So these changes in new application. Oh. I don't know if that went through, but the question was, when does this go into effect? Which is a good question. It'll be July 1st. So the new application will go into effect on July 1st, in addition to some other, a couple policy changes. So on July 1st, we will no longer accept an application within 2 business days of an event. So if your event is on Saturday, you would need to apply by Wednesday, or we just won't be able to accept the application. The other thing is we're asking for people to submit applications at least 15 days in advance. That just gives us time to process, time to get an interview, time to find staffing to do the inspection. It really helps us out on our side if we know further in advance. And then same as always, if you submit an application within 7 days of the event, you'll get a late fee, which currently is a $100 late fee. Any Zoom questions yet?
And for people on Zoom, if you want the link to the form, just send us a question or the link to the website where you can find more information. We can send it to you then.
Okay, well, we'll wait another minute, see if any questions come through. If not,
We do have one question. It is how many days to submit the applications?
okay, so I can kind of go over that one more time. So we are requesting temp food applications come in 15 days in advance of when the first event will be. So if it's like a recurrent event, we want it 15 days ahead. If you are within 7 days of the event, you're going to get a $100 late fee. If it's within 2 business days of the event, we won't be able to accept the application.
So I just have a question. If there's an operator that doesn't have a permitted kitchen, what would be the route for them to find one, or what would be acceptable for them for advanced preparation?
Well, we just want to, what we're really trying to avoid is people making food at home. So there's not really commissaries in Reno and Washoe County per se. What I would try to do is partner with a restaurant. We've had people that have had success just renting out space or renting out time working in a permitted kitchen. Unfortunately, I don't have like a list or anything I can provide. So I would just suggest asking a restaurant to see if you can use some time in their kitchen. Any other questions?
What is the method to submit the application?
You can submit your application in person in our offices. You can submit and pay in person, or you can email the application in. So you can, there's a fillable PDF online, and there is a link to that on our checklist, or you can Google Washoe County Health District Special Events, and that will also bring it up. So you can submit it. You can do the fillable PDF and email it to our front desk, or you can print it out and fill it out and pay online or pay in person.
I have a question. I see that you've changed the food part of this, but has the promoter packet changed?
The promoter packet has not changed, but it will. So that's something we're expecting probably later this year for the promoter packet to change. We'll have another checklist similar to this, but directed at promoters. Yeah, but we wanted to roll this one out first because this affects more people. But yeah, changes coming to be similar setup to this. So hopefully providing more information up front and getting more information up front to kind of set us both up for success, similar to this.
So we have some questions rolling in.
Okay.
The first one was, any chance you're going to give nonprofits a break on fees?
Well, that would be a board decision, so I don't really have an answer on that right now. Sorry. There's that's kind of out of our control, unfortunately. We do have, I will say there is a permit exemption if it's a church or a school operating on church or school property, but that's those very specific cases. Other than that, no.
And a reminder that the District Board of Health meets once a month, and you can find more information on our website, washoecounty.us or washoecounty.gov/health. And then the next question is, I noticed that food storage is 6 inches off the ground, so a wooden pallet is not acceptable, question mark?
Oh, that's a good question. Technically, it is supposed to be 6 inches above the ground because that way you can clean underneath it and the food's not stored directly on the ground where it can become contaminated. At special events, we have allowed food to be stored on pallets just as long as it's up off the ground. Typically at a special event, you're operating on cement or on grass and you're not going to be cleaning underneath there anyway. So as long as the food is up off the ground, we'd accept pallets.
Then our next question is, how much is the temp food permit?
Well, fees are going to change July 1st. That information also is available online. I don't know what the fees are going to be changing to, but you could, what I would search for online is Washoe County Health District You can search the environmental health fee schedule. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but what you really want to remember is the environmental health fee schedule, and that will pull that up online for you. The current prices right now, for a 1 to 3 day high risk event, high risk foods, meaning like foods, thinking of cooking from raw, so hamburgers and things like that, that permit's $177. There's a 1 to 7 day low risk, so things like doing cotton candy or popcorn, that one's $178, and that one's $1 more, but you get to operate for 7 days under that permit. There's more fees than that, but those are the two main ones that we see is those two. So 177 or 178. But like I said, going up a few dollars July 1st.
Another question, I think it goes back to the nonprofits and food, says, what about Lions or Rotary Club, etc.?
No change in permit fees for those organizations at this time.
And then the next question is, what again has changed from last year other than the timeframes?
The timeframes and then just the application packet is completely revamped. But those timeframes are important too. A lot of times we do get late permits. So somebody wants to have an event on Saturday and then we get a permit application on Friday at 2 o'clock, which really leaves us scrambling. So one of the major changes is just having that 2 business days requirement. So at least 2 business days before the event, otherwise we won't accept the application. And then we are asking for permit applications at least 15 days in advance whenever possible. And then, yeah, the application packet itself is completely different.
The important part, and I feel like you're gonna miss, is 2 days before, you're not gonna be able to come to the event.
Right.
They've always done that. And we'll tell our people, but we need to get that word out that if you're not 2 days, you
don't get to
cannot come.
operate. Yep, you don't get to operate. And if we find you operating without a permit, we will close you. We'll require you to pack up your food and your stuff and to go. So operating without a health permit, as we know, is illegal. And we do see it more often than we'd like to. And we do have the authority to basically tell you to leave. So yeah, 2 days before, within 2 days before the event, no permit.
So got another question. If I apply for a permit today for August, will I need to send the new fee?
Yes. Okay, I'm looking to our front desk staff here. Yes. So any event occurring then after July 1st will be the new fee. Yep.
And this one's not a question, but I'm just gonna recognize it. It says, in regards to discounts for service groups or nonprofits, saying that it's sad, and then that's how they raise money as fundraisers. But as I mentioned in the chat, I linked to the District Board of Health page on our website that shows the upcoming meetings. It also identifies the board members. So please, we encourage you to if you are want to discuss that matter with any of our board members, there's contact information for each of the members.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Scott said. Unfortunately, fees are out of our control. I don't disagree. That's how those organizations raise money. Unfortunately, there's just nothing at this level we can do about it, but please reach out to the board and just have your thoughts heard. Maybe we can make some changes. That's it. Okay, well, if no one else has any questions, we can wrap it up. My contact information is available there on the screen. If something comes up later, please feel free to call or email me. I'm happy to help. Thank you to everyone for coming and to all of our team's hard work on this. Thanks. Yeah. Oh yeah, you did. Hi. Hi.
I have a quick question, and I know it, it's okay, I don't use public microphones. I'm gonna see. And we'll just be temporary on the events, but, because I am a vegetarian, we're here real,
vegetarian only. Beef. Or I guess for vegetarians. But I'm still up in the air. Are you allowing propane? Is that something that you authorize for the grill?
Okay, so the question is about equipment. Okay, and if we allow propane barbecue? Yeah, so we don't have anything that would prevent you, the health district doesn't have anything that would prevent you from using a propane grill. But for something like that, you can always check with the fire department of the city that you're operating in. So if your event's in Reno, you can ask Reno Fire if they have any special requirements, but we don't, we would allow that. Mhm. Yeah. With the city or with us?
Well, there's different events going on your website. I see some. You're not holding any of this. You're just giving out the permits or applying the permits, but the actual event.
So on the barbecue? Not typically, no. You can always ask them if they want to be more strict than our requirements, they can be. So the question had to do with if the event organizer has any special requirements for equipment. Okay, so yeah, as long as they're meeting city requirements, so Reno, Sparks, or Washoe County Health District requirements and fire department requirements, they can, if they want to add something on top of that, they can. But at minimum, they must meet those 3 agencies' requirements for equipment. Yeah. Mhm.
You can tell they have a specialized, vending, that's in that canopy and all that. So I want this to be nice. I just want to make sure that I still meet the requirements.
So we have over on the table there's the whole application packet. And that'll walk you through what our requirements are. Oh, yeah, you got it. Yep.
So this is the one.
Yeah, so you can look through that. And then if you have additional questions, just let us know.
And you get all the answers to one of these. It's stuff on the ground.
Yeah.
I was doing the meeting on the-
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I'll just think about it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna sit on-
No, we don't want that. No problem. Is there anything else, Scott? No. Okay, if no one has anything else, thank you. We have a draft checklist. We haven't done the actual form, the application yet.
Oh, yeah.